Okay, hello
Yes,
everyone.
live.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Amrita. Hello everyone. A warm welcome to all our young participants joining us on Zoom, and we have many adults who will be joining us on YouTube Live. I'm very happy to see you all here for this month's Young Birders session by Early Bird. I'm Shruti from the Early Bird team, and my teammate Amrita is also here with us today to help with the session. For those who are joining us for the first time, let me tell you a bit about our work. Early Bird is a project by the Nature Conservation Foundation, and our goal is to help children connect with nature. And to do this, we create interesting courses, booklets, and games, and we also train nature educators. Just yesterday, we have launched the Kannada version of our free Wonder of Birds course. So, if any of you are interested in learning more about birds, please do check out our course on the website. I'll also drop in a link here soon. So in addition to all these content, we also conduct bird walks and we do regular online sessions like this one. We have an interesting session ahead, but first let me tell you why we chose this topic. So we recently concluded the Young Birders workshop during the summer vacations, and I see lots of our Young Birder workshop participants already here in the session. It's great to see you again. And in this workshop, we got lots of questions about touching and handling wild birds, insects, snakes. One of our participants brought a pigeon which could not fly, and he was taking care of the pigeon at his place. Another found a baby bird on the street. Some participants brought snails, spiders, and centipedes to our class. So we thought we need some expert advice on this. So for today's session, we have two experts, Jayanthi and Subiksha from the Avian and Reptile Rehabilitation Center in Bangalore. They have experience of rescuing thousands of injured birds and reptiles, and they help them get strong and then send them back to their home in nature. So today, Jayanti and Subiksha will tell us how to safely help wildlife and when it's best to leave them alone. So Jayanti, Subiksha, thank you so much for joining us today. Over to you.
Thank you, Shruti. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining today's session on a Sunday afternoon. That means we have quite a few wildlife enthusiasts over here. Great to see that. So let's just start. So who are we? Thanks, Shruti, for the introduction. We are Avian and Reptile Rehabilitation Center. We do wildlife rescues in and around Bangalore. We operate a wildlife rescue hotline, have a team of veterinarians, wildlife rehabilitators, and rescuers who attend to any animals that are in distress. Our main aim is to foster positive interactions between wildlife and people who live in the community. Really, we are there for the community. So when people call us, we guide them. If there is any kind of conflict situation, we try to resolve before it escalates into a conflict. And if there is an animal that needs help, that needs for the treatment or rehabilitation, that's when we get the animal back to our center, treat it, nurture it, make sure that it is fit to survive back in the wild and release it back into the wild. But through this all, what is our main aim is to inspire people and nurture this thing about like coexisting and living in harmony with nature and wildlife around them. So that's what we do. And so this session is very appropriate. Thank you for Early Bird for organizing this, because several people actually find wildlife, encounter wildlife in their day-to-day life. But it is always confusing what to do with them. Should they intervene, help, or stay back and observe? So this session will hopefully equip you better in dealing with this. Why is it important to know if you have to step in or stand back? Because our actions have consequences. When you first encounter an animal, what you do or what you do not do will make a difference in the outcome for the animal. So to be able to correctly decide and appropriately act, we should be equipped with right knowledge, and we should also know when to timely intervene and what is the kind of appropriate action that you can take. So through this session, we will go through some real life scenarios where we have intervened and guide you through, what is the best way to go about them. Hopefully, by the end of this session, we will have you equipped to become wildlife champions in your own neighborhoods. All right. Okay. So let's just start. What's happening? Okay. What do we have here? If you're walking in a park or near a pond or something, and you find eggs like this and there is no nest, what do? We have a poll to see what you guys think, what should be done here. So let's get the poll up here. Do we think this is a nest destroyed by a predator? So that's why there's no nest. Or is it a storm, or it's got blown by winds? Or is it an inexperienced mother laying eggs without a nest? Or is it a perfectly normal nest? Let's see what you guys think. All right. Okay. Great. Many of you are answering and many of you are getting it right. Yes, most of you got it right. It is a perfectly normal nest. This is a nest of an Indian stone curlew. What these guys do, they just don't go for elaborate nest. They just scrape the ground and lay their eggs over there. Lag is happening here. Sorry, guys, some technical difficulty. Okay. So like we were talking about, this is an Indian stone curlew nest. They just scrape the ground and lay the nest over there. They rely on other things like camouflage. If you saw the nest, the eggs over there, unless you're a very keen observer, I don't think you can notice that there is a nest over there or there are eggs over there. So that's what they rely on. Or sometimes they also go through this broken wing display. They kind of draw attention towards them. They flap their wings, draw attention towards them, fly away from the nest. And thus they kind of protect their nest. So they engage in several of these behaviors to protect their nest. So they don't need to build a nest. So in this case, if someone finds a nest eggs like this, what is your advice, Subiksha? What should they do?
Okay, yes. So we do get a lot of calls like this where people are quite confused when they see these eggs just lying on the ground with no nest inside. But like you said, it's a perfectly normal nest. And, most of the times, once you step away from there, the parents will immediately come and resume their responsibilities. So please stand back in these situations. Do not intervene or try to remove the eggs from there. So that is the advice we have for the young birds today.
Great. But even if someone else has removed them or relocated them, make sure you tell them about the life history of these birds and how they make their nests and that they don't move these eggs. Okay, that's good advice. But what about this situation? What if I think recently we got a call about someone finding a chick like this in their garden and they were concerned what's happening over here. So what's your advice in this case, Subiksha?
Okay, so before we get into how to help this particular chick, let's just take a minute to understand what are the different types of baby birds that you find. So we can broadly categorize them into altricial chicks. So that would be where the moment they hatch from the egg, right, they are completely naked, no fur, their eyes are closed, they are completely nest bound. That means they're dependent on the parents. The parents will come and feed these babies till they become independent, right? And on the other hand, we have the precocial chicks. So if you can see this peafowl here, they are born quite well developed. So from the time they hatch from the eggs, they are able to walk. Some of them are able to swim. And what they usually do is follow the parents around, and the parents will be foraging on the ground, right? The chicks will also learn like that. So what we saw previously was a lapwing chick. So if you see a lone chick kind of wandering around, please do not, get worried, do not intervene or remove the chick from there. Again, stand back, but watch from a distance, and very likely that, the parents will come for the chick as soon as we are out of sight.
Yeah, in fact, we do have a video for you over here where our team has reunited a lost lapwing chick. Let's watch that. Okay, that's great. A happy reunion there. So like Subiksha was saying, when you find chicks like this, better to stand back and watch. It would be beautiful to see the parents and the young reunite, right? So time for another poll, I guess. What do these birds that are shown on the screen have in common here? Are they all migratory birds, water birds? They're all precocial young, or all of the above? Great. Again, most of you got it right. Looks like we have quite a knowledgeable crowd here. All of these are precocial young. We have a peafowl chick, and then we have a gray swamp hen chick. The third is a white-breasted water hen chick, and finally the spot-billed chicks. So many of these precocial chicks are actually found in and around Bangalore. All of these, in fact, have been reported to us, and these we happen to raise them because the situations were not conducive to reunite them back with their parents. So it would be good for you to identify not just how the adult birds look like, but also how the baby birds look like, and know if they are precocial, advise appropriately on what to be done in cases like this, which is stand back, let the family reunite with each other. Sometimes it may take time, but most of the cases it happens. Only when it fails, you should call a wildlife rescue center for the next steps. All right. Okay, this is another scenario. A lot of people in Bangalore have beautiful balcony gardens and backyard gardens, and most of us are thrilled when we find a bird building a nest. And after that, if it lays the eggs, people start getting, attached to the outcome. But sometimes people actually call us and say, they're not noticing the parent birds in the nest. So what is the advice you have here, Subiksha?
Okay, so when birds build the nest, right, it's not necessary that the bird stays put in the nest constantly, because the birds will take turns to kind of go and forage and come back. So that is one instance where people, usually don't see the birds and start getting worried. Another thing is just when the eggs are about to hatch, right, shortly before that, the parent will stop incubating the eggs. So in these situations, also stand back and keep a watch. It's very likely that the parents will come and resume their incubation responsibility shortly after. Yeah.
Okay, so that's nice. And we have helped a lot of people with these scenarios. And when they watch, right, sometimes they get too worried because they're too invested. When they wait and watch, usually the parent returns. But we have another scenario over here. This is a bulbul chick. What should people do when they find a chick like that alone and not flying and perhaps crouched in their basements or balconies? What do you do?
Okay, so this is a very common scenario that we encounter on a daily basis, particularly with the baby bird season in full swing. So we get calls for bulbuls, tailor birds, flower peckers found on the ground. And it's a perfectly normal thing. So when these birds just fledge out of the nest, right, they do take some time to figure out their way in our urban maze. So you might find them hopping on the ground, but again, stand back, but keep a watch. And most of the times the parents will come and kind of, guide the chick to safety. The only situation where you would have to intervene is if the bird is injured, like you visibly see it limping, or if it's injured, then yes, step in and call a rescue center for advice.
Yeah, if you ask the parents, they say, guys, these are not lost chicks. These are my chicks. Don't burn up them. So this is true for a lot of passerine birds that we found around us. Better to take a stand back and wait and watch. But what about this scenario? What if you see a cat? I mean, this is a very common scenario in urban settings. A cat pursuing a baby bird, or if as soon as the birds fledge, and the parent birds are still caring for the baby birds, that is when the cats can see an opportunity for catching the baby birds, right? What is the advice do you have here?
So in these situations, yes, you definitely have to step in and make sure that the cat doesn't get to the bird. And another thing is, if you guys have cats at home as pets, please keep them indoors. That is the best thing for the wildlife that is there around you. And it's also the best thing for your cat. So that is what we would advise to people who have cats. And, if there is a bird being eyed by a cat, please step in.
Yeah, when these young are just fledged, right? They are still vulnerable. Parents do take care of them. They come out of the nest because that is the best strategy for these birds to spread out so as they don't attract predators to the nest or mites to the nest. So it is better for them to spread out and for parents to take care of them. But during this period is when these young birds are vulnerable to predators. Dogs, cats, or other natural predators, okay, but the cats particularly, they hunt by instinct. They are very agile. They are very keen. We all love cats, but we don't want our cats to go and hurt the wildlife we also care about. So the best thing is to keep them indoors. Or have a bell. And if you have a lot of cats in your area, see if you can work with a local rescue organization to neuter them, to sterilize the cats around in your area so the population does not explode. Okay, so what do these birds have in common? There's no poll here, but just take a look at these birds. We have tailor bird chicks, parrots, and a cuckoo baby, sunbirds, and those are barn owls, if someone doesn't recognize, and then the bulbul chicks. So all these, what we have are the altricial chicks, like we talked about before. These birds are quite dependent on their parents until they come out of the nest, and they stay dependent on the parents even after they come out of the nest. So it would be again good to recognize how these baby birds look like and identify them and advise accordingly. Stay back unless they're injured. If they're injured or something, call your nearest wildlife rescue center. Okay, so we have been talking about birds so far. Just for fun, we also have this other poll. Which of these young mammals is altricial? Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow, good crowd here. Again, most of you got it right. Yeah, it is us humans. When we are born, we cannot walk. We are very dependent on our parents. We depend on them for food and everything, right? Like, so the human babies are the altricial ones over here, whereas the other mammals we have seen, particularly the black-naped hare and a deer, spotted deer or something we have, those are precocial, which means they are independent, they can walk around, they can follow the parents if it is necessary, or they can stay put. So, but this is the period when they are most vulnerable, because most of the times they will stay put at one place, and the mother will come when the time is appropriate, quickly feed and go away, because otherwise if it stays with the young, there is risk of predation for both. So during this time, if you find in the cities, we may not find so many spotted deer, but black-naped hares, we do get them from people's gardens and all that. So when you find them, leave them alone, do not move them, do not intervene. Again, you can call a wildlife rescue center or an expert for advice and see if it needs any intervention. Otherwise, best to leave them alone for the mother to come back. And black-naped hares usually come in the night to feed their young. So they can come and feed, and they can grow up, how they should. Okay. So yeah, we have a lot of people ask this question actually. If they find a baby bird or a young animal, what can they do? Can they go in and take care of it? Can they take into their homes and take care of these animals, or should they be calling a wildlife rescue center? And why should they call a wildlife rescue center? Subiksha?
Okay, so yes, if any of you were to find any wildlife that is in distress, it's absolutely important that you contact a rescue center immediately, because these are wild animals, right? So each bird will have its own kind of diet, a specialized kind of housing, and they need appropriate care for them to develop well and for them to be able to return to the wild. So it's very important that you reach out to rescue centers in time. And the second thing that happens is these animals, right, they can imprint or they can become habituated to people. And such animals, if we were to release them into the wild, they will not really be successful. So that is why if you find any wildlife in distress, please contact the right people so they can help the animal the right way. That is the best thing you can do to help these animals that are there around you.
Yeah, and wildlife also is protected by law, not to mention that, but okay. What about these scenarios? What if someone finds baby munia being sold, or a parrot being sold? Or what if someone sees a parrot being used in astrology, or a snake charmer? What should people do in that case?
People have to absolutely step in these situations, because like you were mentioning, according to the Wildlife Protection Act, guys, these animals are protected. Nobody can keep them captive at home. So if you were to come across a neighbor keeping a parakeet at home as a pet, or if you see people, snake charmers, using these snakes on display or parakeets, please report such incidents to the rightful authorities. That could be the forest department, or we have mentioned our helpline number there. So if you give us a call, we will step in and make sure that the animal reaches the right place, because also it's unfair for the animal to be kept in such conditions, right? So yes, please do step in, reach out to the right authorities.
Yeah, we do have strong laws that protect wildlife in our country, but it is also our responsibility to make sure, to be the eyes and make sure these animals are protected. Now, if your neighbor is keeping an animal or something, do not be rude to them. Try to explain. Most of the times, people do not realize that they are actually protected. They think that there's common birds, and they think that they're helping them. So first, try to help them understand and give them the right guidance to call a rescue center. If all fails, then you report it to the concerned people. Okay, so we have been talking about a lot of birds, baby birds so far. But what happens? Let's see what happens when there are natural disasters. Recently, we have had a bout of heavy rains and severe storms. So how do these animals survive, and what kind of cases do you get when these? So let's start with a poll. Let's see what you think. What happens to wildlife during storms? Okay. Yeah. The right answer is all of the above. Most of the wildlife is highly resilient, and they can weather severe weather, storms and inclement weather, but sometimes they do need help. So let's see different scenarios and see what can you do in cases like that. Okay, so the first thing that happens when there are floods or heavy rains is animals get washed off. So they may be they particularly with turtles and snakes, they stay in the water. The flood water overflows, and with that the animals also get washed away. And when the flood water recedes, they may not immediately be able to go back. And then people find them in their neighborhoods, basements, on the road and things like that. What should people do in this case, Subiksha?
Okay, so like I said, most of the times animals that are affected in such situations are turtles and snakes. If you find a turtle that's kind of, in an unusual place, please call a rescue center. They will be able to guide you on how to safely release the animal back in its habitat, and that's what you can do.
Yeah, but it is important to note here, right, that people should figure out what kind of turtles are these, because there are a lot of red-eared sliders out there which are exotic, and they should not be released back into our waterways. We already have a severe problem with these exotic animals that are in our lakes and things like that. Now, they not only transmit diseases, they compete with the native wildlife. So it's not a good idea, absolutely not a good idea, to release a red-eared slider back. So that is why, if you're in doubt, please do call an expert, and they can advise you on what turtle, if it is a native turtle or not. And if it is a native turtle, follow the advice, and by all means, you can just release it unless it is injured. What about the snakes? Can we go a little more into the snakes?
So if you were to find a snake in an open space, it could be a venomous species or it could be a non-venomous species. In either of these cases, best thing to do is to give the animal the time and the space to move out. Snakes are very shy animals. They don't want anything to do with us, right? So given the chance, their instinct would be to move away from there on their own. But if at all the snake is inside your home or inside a space where it cannot move away on its own, in such situations, please do not take matters into your own hands. Reach out to a trained a rescue center or a trained snake handler. They will be able to come in and help the snake out of that situation. During that process, till help arrives, you can keep an eye on the snake's whereabouts from a distance to ensure that the rescue process goes more smoothly.
Yeah, even if you have watched other people catch snakes, or you have been trained a little bit, like this is we advise you to not take matters into your hands. Particularly, right equipment has to be used, and after catching, the animal has to be released back. So this is best to work with a qualified snake rescuer, or call Wildlife Rescue Center. But if you are interested, there are many courses out there, and people you can attend workshops and things like that and learn how to handle snakes. But unless you are certified, better not get into rescuing it yourselves. But you can do many other things even if you're not rescuing, like advising people, telling them whether it is venomous or non-venomous, telling them about their behaviors and calming them down. So there is a big role that you can play, even if you're not rescuing them yourselves. Okay. What about this situation? Do you get calls also for drenched animals that are, yeah. So do you, what advice do you have for people?
Yeah, this is one of the most common things we encounter during rains. Though wild animals are quite resilient, sometimes, during heavy downpours, they may, get wet and they may come down. Most of these situations, what you need to do is stand back and wait and watch, because sometimes, the animals, once they're dry, they can take off. But also during rains and harsh weathers, right, the animals that are slightly compromised are the ones that get impacted first and the most. So even after the animal dries off, if it's having difficulty, taking off, then in those situations, please contact a rescue center and they'll be able to come and help the animal with that situation.
Okay, great. With rains, there will be fallen trees and disintegrated nests. What should people do if they find
Okay, in such situations, because these are baby birds we are talking about, they will need constant and immediate parental care. So it becomes very important that we don't delay in these situations and reach out to a rescue centers immediately. So when you reach out to a rescue center, they'll be able to advise you. Some situations, yes, if the chicks are healthy, parents are around, we can attempt to re-nest. But in other situations where that's not conducive, we need to rush them to a rescue center immediately, right? So yes, timely action is important in such cases.
Right. So this needs certainly immediate attention. Okay, so let's go to the next poll. Which of these birds are cavity nesters? Can we have the poll? Okay, a little bit. The right answer is all of the above. Barbet, kingfisher, parakeets, and miners. All of them are cavity nesters. So it would be also good for you to know which are cavity nesters around your area, because when the trees fall, either because of natural causes, or if it's a dry tree, even, barbets love dry trees. So even if it is a dry tree and someone is just cutting thinking that the tree is dead, it would be good to know, particularly during the breeding period, to look for the cavities. Because sometimes you don't see these birds because the baby birds will be in the cavities. Examine the tree to see if there are any cavities and if you hear any sounds, because even taking them out of those cavities, excavating them is also you need specialized skill to do that without harming the birds, and it is best done by a qualified rescuer. So identifying them and examining the fallen trees for these cavities you will be able to help these cavity nesting birds. Okay. Also, during these rains and inclement weather, do you notice that some of these wild animals come inside buildings, near buildings, to take shelter?
Absolutely. This happens all the times during rains, particularly with bats. What we see, when it's pouring outside, they will come and kind of take shelter in our spaces for brief periods of time. But once the rain stops, they will be out back in the wild on their own. So in these times, stand back, just share your homes for a little bit with these animals. You can help them, stay safe from the rains.
Yeah. But what if it gets trapped in a building? I mean, if it comes and goes, that's great. But once it enters into the building and it's not able to move out, what should people do in that case?
Yes, these situations are also quite common. But before, yes, you need to step in. But before calling the rescue center, there are some steps that you can take. So, first thing, the space where the animal is, right? If you have any fans running or any hazardous equipment running, please turn those off first. Second thing would be to restrict the animal within that space. So, for example, if it's in your living area, make sure you cut off access to the rest of the rooms so that, it's easier to contain the animal. If you have dogs, cats at home, please shift them to the other room. And the last thing that you can do is birds are very visual animals. So, they're usually drawn to the light source. So, completely make the room as dark as possible, switch off all the lights, close down the curtains, and just leave one source of light open. You can leave the door open. Most of the times, the birds might be able to figure their way out. But for some reason, the animal is having difficulty, then contact a rescue center so that they can come in with the right equipment, safely secure the animal, and release it out in the wild.
Right, but this doesn't work for closing all the lights, doesn't work for bats. Please remember that. Bats, they love the darkness. I mean, they get disoriented regardless. So if it is a bat that is trapped inside your house, definitely call a wildlife rescue center immediately if you're not able to guide it out. Okay, that's great. Also, we are talking about birds entering and they needing help, but there are some natural things that happen during the rains also. They trigger local migrations. Either birds move from a wetter region to a more drier region, or they may be moving to an area with more access to food. So particularly, this becomes very apparent. I mean, in this season, though, we got so many calls with people calling us about peafowls, on their terraces or in their balconies. And some of them have seen the peafowl for the first time in the city, because most people think that peafowls are not there in the city, but that's not true. I mean, Bangalore particularly, we have a lot of green spaces where people do exist and they move from one area to the other. So if you see something like this and do not pursue it because it's a perfectly all right animal, right? Like just give them time to figure their things out. Maybe they got caught in this urban maze and they'll take time to figure it out. But if you do pursue them, what happens is they may get stressed and they may want to escape from you, and in the process you may be ending up causing more stress or hurting the animal. So this is what, like, most of the cases we get, I think 50-50 of them are 50 are unnecessary interventions. But once you have intervened and you have caught the animal, then it becomes a situation that needs rescue. If the bird was left alone, it probably is just like a beautiful sight to watch what these birds do and move away. So in cases like this, be again aware that what season is it, what types of birds are this, what are they going through, and learn whether it's usual or unusual for them, and stand back and watch in these cases. Okay. So all through the session, we have been talking about, why people should stay back and wait and watch, do not be too eager to intervene. But are there some situations where we want our young wildlife champions over here to step in and do something for the wildlife around them?
Absolutely. It's interesting to note that most of the rescue situations that come to us are because of human-induced reasons, for various reasons, like you can see on the screen. So if in any of these situations, right thing to do would be for them to step in and do the needful so that the animals stay safe.
Okay, so let's go through some of those scenarios. Can you explain a little bit about what manja is and see what happens and what people can do?
Okay, so manja is the string that people use to fly kites, and that is usually a non-biodegradable string, right? So once the string gets discarded, it just stays in the trees, stays on these towers, and it doesn't get degraded with rainfall or anything like that. So when birds use these spaces, they unfortunately get tangled, and it affects so many different birds and bats, like you can see. So in such situations, please make sure that you raise awareness about manja. If you see anybody either selling manja or people using manja, you can tell them not to do so because it's actually banned by the government. So yes, please do step in these situations. And what you can also do is, if you observe a lot of manja that is there around your area, tie up with your local rescue center and try to organize a cleanup drive so that we remove manja from the environment and prevent birds from getting stuck in the string.
Yeah, prevention is always better. And at ARRC, we do organize manja cleanup drives. So if any of you out there notice there is manja in and around your neighborhoods, please do call us, and we will come and do the necessary cleanup. Okay, so, and also manja, guys, it doesn't affect just the common birds. I don't know if we have a picture over here. There is this season, there was a peregrine falcon that got caught. And most of the things that are reported are only big birds get reported. But here we see in the second picture, there is a barbet also that gets talked to manja. So manja does not distinguish anything that can go and that goes through it's not only on the trees, it's on the telephonic poles, it's on electric poles, it's on these antennas that are put out there. So it is everywhere. So this is something that if we can all come together and raise awareness and let people know that the ill effects that manja has, not only on birds, but also on humans. There are several people who get injured. Most of them go unreported. So the manja is one thing that we should hopefully, in future, there will be a day where no bird gets hurt by manja. That is what we hope for. Okay, apart from manja, there is another common cause for birds coming into us is collision. This actually is well documented in other parts of the world. In India, maybe we have not documented it well yet, but this does happen. A lot of birds, they cannot distinguish the glass. And sometimes we walk through a glass. That happens to us also, right? Like, so you can imagine the plight of the birds through this. If you see the picture over here, there is something that you can do, we all can do. It is changing our way we design our buildings. Or if we like glass windows, okay, great. We can also make them pretty, but make sure that birds are also not injured because of that. If you see the left side over here, it is a film. I mean, you can either put decals if you like, and there are different designs that come, or that look pretty also. So you can have a film. So if you see on the left side, the bird can make out that there is something and it recognizes the barrier. Whereas in the right side, without film, it sees through, and the reflection of outside is inside. So the bird sees like it's flying through to get to the other side. So, and in the process, they hit the glass and they collide, and the collisions are usually pretty bad for the birds. Sometimes they are fatal also, because they go to internal injuries, head injury happens. So this is something that we all can do. If we have glass buildings in our schools, in our residential complexes or anywhere, we can advocate for people having something to protect the birds around us. Again, if you, there's another thing that you can do. If you ever find, either while, your day-to-day life or somewhere, if you found a bird that is hit a glass, there are places where you can report this, so that we understand the effects of it and what kind of species are getting affected. So there are two places where you can report this. There is a global bird collision mapper, and also there is iNaturalist. There's a page where you can report all these collisions. This is how you can step in and contribute as a citizen into these citizen science projects. Okay, and what about waste disposal? This is another big cause for worry for the wildlife and for us also. Can you elaborate a little bit more about this?
Absolutely. So all of us generate so much waste in our day-to-day lives, right? So where does this actually end up? Most of the times, all the trash that we generate is neither good for the planet, nor is it good for us. Same thing goes for the wildlife also. We get a lot of cases where, we have had birds with their legs tangled in plastic wires. We have had birds come in with bottle wrappers, stuck to their wings. So it becomes important for us to kind of advocate for proper waste management practices. That could be in your homes, that could be in your schools, that could be in your communities. So that is one thing that you can do. And if at all you were to see an animal, stuck in any sort of plastic or any waste that's discarded, please report it to a rescue center so that they can step in and help the animal in that case. And apart from that, if you know of any, cleanup drives that are happening in and around your community, please do participate in that, because like we said before, prevention is better than cure. So yes, that is
right. And a word about the darters over here. I mean, we have noticed a lot of the darters. Most of you are into birding, so you know how a darter goes about, right? Like, it pierces through the fish and then it takes it in. In that process, if it encounters any waste around, like a fishing net, a mask, or even a discarded cotton cloth, it gets stuck and the beak is now shut. It is not able to open. But you can't even rescue a bird like this, because you go to rescue a bird like this bird is flighted. So it will keep flying. It will fly till it gets exhausted, but you will not be able to catch that. Meanwhile, the bird is not able to eat. It just is starving and getting exhausted and emaciated. So this is why, I mean, even if we want to, and if we are committed to it, it won't be able to rescue. There is very little we can do to help a bird like this. So it is better that we do not have that waste that is causing this problem, rather than put a lot of effort into going and rescuing the bird, which is still doubtful whether we will be able to rescue a bird like this or not. So that is why it is important for all of us, for the planet, for everybody in it, for us to advocate for proper waste management. And who is the highest generator of waste on this planet, guys? It's us, right? So it is our responsibility to make sure that this waste that we are generating is managed properly, so that it does not impact the other life on our planet. Okay. So again, we have a lot of people who have asked the question that they do want to help animals in around them. They see many animals hungry, or they don't have access to water, so they want to do something. So what is the advice that you have for people who want to do something for animals in their neighborhoods?
Okay, so when you're helping wildlife, there is a way to go about it, right? So a lot of times we see people want to feed the wildlife that is there around them. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with situation in cities where monkeys break into people's houses. So how did that come about, right? So a lot of times somebody found this monkey, sitting, looking sad. So they would have given it a banana. So now the monkey is associating a person a person with food, right? So when it doesn't get food, what does it do? It breaks into our homes, tries to take bananas from our kitchen, right? But we are causing the problem by feeding these animals, because we have to remember that these wild animals have to stay wild. It's important that they don't become dependent on us. But what is it that we can do instead of feeding these animals is to create habitats. So in your balconies or in your gardens, plant more native trees to support the birds and the animals that are there around you. And if you want, you can even put out water baths. That's a lovely way to, help out wildlife. But if you're putting out water baths, it's very important to remember to keep them clean. So you have to wash the bowls every day, fill it with fresh water, so that we are not, because these water bowls left stagnating can cause disease transfer and all of that, right? So we have to make sure we clean them before we put it out every day.
Okay, that is great. And there are also other things that people can do, if you are a little more, qualified, or if you can have bird nests over there, appropriate bird nests. You can participate in a lot of, bird surveys and other citizen science initiatives to be able to help the local wildlife in your community. Okay, so we've been talking about it. Let's just summarize in a quick nutshell what we have been talking about today. So this is a quick guide for you. So if you see an injured or a sick animal and you recognize that, then you should go and step in and call a wildlife rescue center. But if you see a bird that looks alert and healthy, but maybe it just is in your balcony, or you have not noticed this bird before and you're suddenly seeing this bird, in those cases, you just stand back and observe. Maybe the bird is all right, it's just passing through. Just stand back and observe. If you see a wild animal in an unusual place, do not assume that there is something wrong and intervene. Evaluate and decide. Maybe the animal is passing through. Maybe it just made a mistake and strayed into your area. Maybe it will find its way wherever it has to go. So just stand back, observe, evaluate. But if it does get into any trouble, like predator attacks or something, then you can intervene. Similarly, if you observe, any natural interactions like a shikra pursuing a bulbul or something like that, of course, we all feel sad for the bulbul. It's natural to do so, but please do not intervene. There is an intricate balance that is maintained by both the prey as well as the predators that live in our environment. So let them do what they have to do. It's a bulbul is as important as a shikra, so do not intervene, do not meddle into that. That is there because we are there, and because they are dependent on humans and we are subsidizing them. If it's a dog or a cat that is pursuing, know that that's not a natural predator for that bird. That is the time when we have to intervene, even though sometimes it can be challenging on how to really intervene. But those are the cases you have to intervene, but not the natural predator interactions. Okay, so how to be a wildlife champion? We have put together some easy 5 steps, which we have been talking about, but we'll go over them one more time. So if you find a wild animal, observe it from a safe distance. You stay calm and quiet. Don't stress the animal. Don't stress yourself out. Just observe from a safe distance, both for you as well as for the animal. Then assess the situation, figure out whether it is injured or is it orphaned, is it a fledgling, is it in danger, is it just resting, observe, assess, and your knowledge that you have gained, all you young people with your knowledge about your wildlife in your area, you will be able to tell, try and figure out and assess what is happening with the situation. Then before acting, even though maybe your first instinct is to go and do something, if you sense some danger, seek expert advice before acting, because they will be able to appropriately guide you. And maybe taking some pictures and sending the situation will be able to help them also assess the situation, and they can guide you better. And act only if needed, only if advised by someone. So intervene if the animal is danger, and while doing so, follow all the safety protocols and other handling protocols that are laid out, which would be good both for you as well as the animal that you are rescuing. And finally, do communicate back what happened. If you just take the advice and then what happened, if it is not communicated back, the same people will not know how to help the next person. So all this information can be documented. So do duly communicate back what the outcome was, whether the animal was helped or it went away, or in some cases it passed away, whatever the case may be, communicate these things back. So if you follow these 5 steps, you will be on your way to become a wildlife champion. And okay, that's mostly what we have, but we do want to share over here what we believe is respecting the space and keeping them where they belong, the wildlife. That is the first step towards conservation here. And there are many, I mean, in our experience, many children, many young people, I mean, of today are much more aware about wildlife around them. They're knowledgeable, they're equipped, they know what to do. And these are the people who are insisting that their parents make a call, they stay with the parents, they don't with the bird or animal in danger, and they do not they insist that the animal gets help. So many calls like that we get where parents are saying my child skipped school today to make sure that this animal got the help. So young people today are very well aware of wildlife around them, environment, the issues it faces, and they are very keen to be able to help. Several of the animals that come to us come because children have insisted that their parents do something about it. So we are hoping that this session has equipped you with some guidelines on how you can become wildlife champion or a wildlife warrior in your neighborhoods. And if you have further questions, we can take some questions during this session, but if you have any other further questions, you can always reach out. Our helpline will be is posted somewhere. Otherwise, you can get it from Google also. Okay, guys, thank you again. And now can we open for questions? Are there any questions?
Thank you, Jayanthi, Subiksha. This was a really good session. You covered most of the questions that were there. There are only a few. So what I'm going to do in interest of time is I will just read out the questions to you, which we got in the chat. I think you covered everything that we got in the registration form. So that's all covered. And you can answer those questions. And if we have more time, we'll probably directly ask the participant.
I do remember a question that someone asked, and we would like to take that, which is like, what if I find a baby bat or a bat struggling on the floor? A bat struggling on the floor is never a good, that's not a good thing. So it must be, something must be wrong with the bat. Even if it is a young baby bat, if you see it struggling and not moving around, that is a situation wherein you will have to call some expert or a wildlife rescue center nearby if you have access to, and they will be able to advise on what to do. Nothing is wrong with it. Okay, we can take other questions.
Okay, thanks, Jayanthi. Yeah, we have a lot of questions about snakes. Children love snakes, it seems like. So I'm going to just take a few questions there. So we have Thea asking, what if you know the animal is a safe animal and you know how to help it, like a small python? What to do if a snake is in a toilet? How to make out a difference between a poisonous or non-poisonous snake? And Thea, Achyut, and Anuruddha also said that if we see snakes, we really want to touch it. Can we touch it?
No, that's never a good idea to touch snakes. I mean, I appreciate that you love snakes so much that you want to touch and feel them. I get where you're coming from. But it is even, it is good if you know it is a venomous and non-venomous snake. But just, I'm going to ask you, think what the snake would be feeling, right? You may be wanting to touch the snake because you like the snake. But for a snake, whether it is a venomous snake or a non-venomous snake, you are a predator who is approaching them. So it's not like they appreciate that touch. So it is better to stay back. But if you equip yourself on how to rescue, and if somebody is asking it is in toilet, okay, if you learn how to rescue, take the assistance of someone who is more experienced, because you're still children, and no matter what, even if it is a non-venomous snake, you don't want to ever get bitten by a wild animal. It's not a good thing. It's not a good experience for the animal, not a good experience for you. So we would still advise, assist a rescuer, but do not intervene on your own. And maybe if you want to grow up, and to become a part-time wildlife rescuer, if not a full-time, that's a different situation. But for now, advice would be to work with someone and do not go and directly touch the snakes and intervene. The snakes don't appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jayanthi. There are actually people who are asking if there are any workshops for learning snake handling. And I think it will be great to also tell our audience on how they can also become wildlife rehabilitators like both of you.
Okay, that's a good question. Actually, wildlife rehabilitation is a nascent field. I mean, it's not a very well developed field yet, but now, I mean, from when we started ARRC to now, we see a lot of wildlife rehabilitation centers coming up and a lot of interest into wildlife rehabilitation, because as people are becoming more aware, they are getting more interested in saving the animals in their own neighborhoods. So there are many different careers over here. Being a wildlife vet is one career. I mean, you can be a wildlife biologist, you can be a wildlife rescuer, you can be a wildlife rehabilitator, you can be also a researcher. I mean, those options are also available. More and more interest from young people nowadays into this wildlife. So how to become a wildlife rehabilitator? While there are some courses that teach you knowing about the animal behavior, knowing about natural ecology, you don't just directly become a wildlife rehabilitator. It is based upon a lot of other knowledge that you gain. So you can gain that and then attend, even though there is not many courses directly offered as wildlife rehabilitation courses. But if you are an animal behaviorist, I mean, if you have background in biology, here Subiksha over here is a master's in wildlife sciences. I mean, any related subjects that you do, and if you have passion towards helping the animals, then you can become a wildlife rehabilitator. And most of this learning also happens on the job as of now. But in future, maybe there will be courses that will come out, and keep a watch on that, and then you can enroll in it. And even if you have other full-time job, you can always be a part-time wildlife rehabilitator, volunteering somewhere.
Awesome. So does ARRC have any volunteering opportunities?
We do, but we only take very committed volunteers, because wildlife rehabilitation, when you are interacting with animals, it is important that you handle it correctly. So yeah, we do. And maybe if you are interested, you can go to our website, Wild ARRC website, and then there is a volunteer form. If you fill up, we make sure that you are suitable for volunteering, and we will call you, and we will tailor make a volunteering position because we don't have standard volunteering positions. It depends upon your age, your interest, and how much time you are willing to commit, things like that.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's really nice that you tailor the opportunities as per the person's. That's great. Okay. We have some more questions about how to handle situations like if there is a baby bird which desperately needs help, the chick's parent is hurt, there are snakes in the toilet, and if they can't find a professional on time, like, do you have any suggestions on like a quick
Yeah.
first aid or something?
Yeah, first aid also has to be, if you are trained, I mean, before you administer first aid to an animal, it would be good to get trained in with someone. Like, you can either volunteer, if you're of appropriate age, you can volunteer with a veterinary hospital, or you can volunteer with another wildlife rescue center, or even a domestic rescue center, to learn the basics of first aid. I mean, there are certain things that people can do. Stop bleeding. I mean, this is something that you can get trained at, like how to stop bleeding, or how to if there is an obstruction in the airways and the bird is not able to breathe, how to do, and maybe even to the extent that doing an initial CPR. But these things have to be again trained. So currently, specifically for wildlife, I do not know of any such training that is available. But if you are trained even in domestic animals, you can transfer that knowledge to the wildlife.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. A couple of more questions. Pranav Kumar asked that are all birds protected by law from being kept in cages?
All native wildlife is protected in India. So you can have, like, like these lovebirds or some Kannurs and things like that, which are non-native, can be kept, but even those are protected by law in terms of they have to be kept in appropriate conditions, appropriate housing, and they should not be subjected to any types of discomfort. But if you have any of these exotic birds, there is a parvesh, I think it is called, that you have to register it in that website to make sure that you are owning it legally. So, but any native wildlife cannot be kept in
Got
cages or by people as pets.
Right. Okay. And
It should
Anirudh,
not be also, it's not good for them. And we want them, we enjoy them, we want them in the wild, right? Like we want them who they are. None of those birds appreciate being in cages, certainly.
yeah. I mean, if we just imagine us being stuck at home all day in a closed space, that's exactly
Right,
how those birds
right.
feel. And they are far away from their countries. They're not even there in their own country.
Right. And particularly us, particularly people who are interested in this topic, you love birds, you watch birds, you know how rich their life is, right? Like, to confine them into a small space is not fair to them. So we should be the advocates of, like, if someone who is just starting out and they like an animal and they want to express it by keeping an animal. So being experienced in this, we realize what it is like. And I hope all of you will encourage other people in your community to be able to, choose it correctly, not to keep them, but to let them be out, and whatever we have to do for that, whether it is protecting their habitats, that is what we guide people towards, right? And hopefully, all of you will pass on this knowledge also to your friends and family, so that all of us together can become a community which is much more friendly towards the wildlife in that community.
That's right. Okay, I'll take one more. I'll ask you one more question and then we can open it to the audience. So Anirudh asked, is there an alternative for manja?
I mean, you can use cotton thread. The difference is, yes, cotton thread, which is traditionally used, can also be stuck to the trees and can also cause some damage. But there is a minimal damage that happens because of that. Because first of all, cotton thread disintegrates faster, and it is not as difficult to break. So even if a bird is trying to untangle it or trying to break it off, it may have a better success than doing it with manja. Manja, though, it is unbreakable, and if it tries to break it, it cuts through the skin even more. So there are safer alternatives. Of course, the most safe thing is not to have anything stuck on the tree. So it is not, the problem is not here the kite flying. Again, it is not, it is the manja. So there are some practices. Even if you're using a cotton thread, make sure you retrieve your thread after usage. Make sure that it does not, you are flying kites in an open space where there is no risk of this thread that you are using falling on the trees. By ensuring these things, you can still practice kite flying in a safer way. But make sure you use the cotton thread, because manja is also very clearly, particularly in Karnataka, banned. The usage of it, the sale of it, all of these things are banned.
Okay, got it. Okay, so if somebody likes to fly kites, they can still fly kites. They don't have to stop
Yeah,
flying kites. Okay, great. Okay, do you have 5 minutes more, Jayanthi, Subiksha? Shall we just take a few more questions?
sure.
Okay. So if any of you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. So use the reaction buttons in Zoom and you can raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can ask your question in case any questions are missed. Oh, okay. Okay, Achyut, go ahead. You can ask your question. Achyut Trivedi.
Okay. Uh, yes. Ma'am, I have a question that how can I watch birds from a safe distance while also not scaring them away?
Very good question, Achyut. So there is always a safe distance. It is important to know what is the safe distance for each animal. Even as people, like if you see, right, some people are comfortable at a certain distance. Like if you go too close, if a stranger approaches you too close, even you will like kind of, stay back. So there is a safe distance for people. There is a safe distance for dogs. There is a safe distance for birds. Like a bulbul may tolerate a certain distance, whereas if it is an owl, it may tolerate a different type of distance. So it again, this is when you study the birds, right? Like you observe the birds, you study the birds. You will get an idea of what is that safe distance. Particularly, if you're using binoculars, that's okay. But if you're using a camera trying to capture a bird, it would be good to be mindful of what is the safe distance. So a rule of thumb we can say, if you are if the safe distance is when the bird does not alter its behavior because of your presence. Okay, if you're getting and the bird is raising its wings, becoming a little more alert and moving its head and looking where to go, that means you're approaching a little too close. Retreat back, take a step back. That is how you decide the safe distance. So there is no one common safe distance for all types of birds. It depends upon the birds also. Some of the common crows may be able to tolerate a little bit more. So this is something that you can figure out, but I have given you a rule of thumb there.
Okay, thank you, Jayanti. Yeah, I think the camera situation is something that happens a lot. I think photographers don't really realize how close they are going because they're looking through the camera and
Right.
they often end up going too close.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me
Again,
unmute.
like everything, right? I mean, there is an ethical photography that we should all engage in, learn more about it. That may require a little bit more technique and a little bit more patience. But that patience that we employ here will be quite rewarding, because after all, we love these animals, we love these birds, and we want them to flourish, right? So in that, and we are interested in them, it's okay to observe them, it's okay to enjoy them, but at an appropriate distance. What is it for a different type of for an activity? That is upon us to learn.
Right. Okay, I can ask Thea now. Thea, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Hi, Tia.
Okay, my question is like if a snake or something is stuck in the bathroom in the plumbing or the drainage, like how do you get it out? Like what do you do with it? The normal.
That definitely requires an expert snake rescuer, because if it is stuck in a toilet and if you go and try to approach it, it may go deeper into it, right? Like, or deeper into a plumbing pipe. So sometimes snake rescuers work with plumbers to be able to resolve a particular situation. So it's not even if you know how to rescue the snake, you may not understand how the pipes and the connections and all those things work. So a snake rescuer would call in someone who knows the utilities in that particular area, or a plumber, qualified plumber, and together they can hatch out a plan to be able to rescue the snake safely.
Okay, I have another doubt. Is it normal?
It's not very uncommon, because snakes seek spaces to hide. They want to hide away from you. Some of the drainage pipes, and urban snakes particularly, are very well adapted to be able to live and survive in the drainages and things like that. So these pipes become a very easy access for them to be able to hide themselves. If someone notices them, they want to retreat somewhere. That could be a rat hole, or that could be a plumbing pipe, right? So
Yeah.
it's not that uncommon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jayanti. Okay, I'll ask Havish to unmute himself and ask his question.
Is it common to find flycatchers near your house? Because in my neighbor's house, I almost always find dead flycatchers.
They're dead, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
To find flycatchers are there in Bangalore, okay, particularly.
No, I live in Chennai.
Okay. Even in Chennai also, it's not unusual to find them, but if you are continuously finding them dead, either there may be a predator. I mean, we don't know, not knowing the situation, how many times you have found it dead, things like that, but there may be a reason. But look into it if they are hitting a glass, okay? If you're hitting a building or something like that.
Because
Yeah.
I found it dead like 5 times.
Oh,
And
Okay.
sometimes I find it dead in pairs.
Okay. So that's a situation that has to be investigated. I won't be able to tell you right away of what could have caused it. This is what wildlife rescuers investigate. There are a lot of investigation and assessment of the situation has to be done. So maybe if you want, you can call our helpline and elaborate on the situation in the interest of the time. And then if we have any suggestions, we may ask you to share some pictures and see if we can guide you remotely. on that.
Okay, what is the number to call?
It is, we should have put it here, 944
944
964
964.
2222.
Okay, so I will be sending an email to all registered participants with all phone numbers and contact details of wildlife rescue centers across the country. So you will have it on email soon, okay, after this session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Okay, Arham, would you like to go next?
I saw a lapwing mother nesting inside a car park, and it had laid its eggs and built its nest over there. So, is that a normal thing? Is it safe for the bird?
Okay, see, there's something I would like to mention over here. As these urban spaces are growing, right, these urban birds are also trying to figure out, they're pushing the, edge to figure out what else can they do. In fact, an interesting thing is lapwings now, there are lapwings, and we have found situations in Bangalore here itself, where they started nesting on the rooftops also. Okay, they nest on the rooftops, and once the chicks hatch, they come through a hatch or something onto the ground. Yeah, they are also trying to figure out, because the space is getting limited for them. It's not like there is so much access or so many spaces, and sometimes they do, because what is their consideration, right? They need access to the right kind of space, and it should be safe from the predators. And this is an interesting thing, but a lot of times some of the birds find closer to human proximity as a safe space also, because they will be away from the balconies, for example. For some birds, they provide a safe haven. So that way, it's possible that this lapwing also is pushing it and trying to see its lap. Or it could be an inexperienced lapwing, that did not find the prime spot and had resorted to laying it over here. So it depends upon this specific situation. But at the same time, no matter what it does, let it do what it wants to do. Okay, do not intervene. Even if it fails this particular clutch, it may learn from it and do a better job the next time.
Thanks, Jayanthi. Yeah, that's good advice. Let it learn from its mistakes if it's a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Anaya, would you like to go next and ask your question?
I have a question that if I see a bat somewhere, like a baby bat, can I touch it if it's somewhere like injured or something?
Again, it goes, the same advice goes. I mean, if a bat or a bird or an animal is injured, it is in severe pain, right? It does not, we may be approaching it with an intention of comforting it, but our touch is not comforting to the animal. They will think like a predator touching them. So it's not a good idea to touch an animal, but there are other things that you can do. For example, if you find an injured bat, you can try to invert a cardboard box or something on it so that it doesn't further get injured or it doesn't get noticed by a predator. So these things you can do, but just taking and touching them is not good for the animal. And also then if the animal is stressed, it may turn back and bite. Now, a perfectly positive interaction you wanted to help may turn into a negative interaction because the bat has bitten you and you have to go to the hospital to get a tetanus shot. What is the fun in that, right? So better not do that. And that is what this session is supposed to help you. There are other ways that you can still help the bat.
Yeah, thanks, Jayanti. Yeah, I think there was another question in the chat for bird chicks found injured or abandoned. What should be fed to them before handing them over to rescue? I think you answered that as well. It's best
Right.
leave it to
And
the
also
professionals.
these individual birds, each bird has very specific dietary requirements. We see the birds and we see that to feed something available in the home. Lot of times we do not, even though we are a rescue center, we do not have the appropriate things with us to feed a new species of bird that walks through our door. So at home, it is very difficult to find the right types of things to feed that animal. Because if it is a baby bird, imagine their digestive systems are very sensitive. Overall, they are very fragile, and a wrong move can now make a situation into even a worse situation for the animal, right? Like, so there are, and also this another point I do want to mention: when we see animals and they're hurt and they open their mouth, we want to feed them something. The first thing for an injured, like for example, if somebody is hurt and fallen on the road, what is the first thing that you do, guys? You don't go and feed them ice cream, do we? No, right? What we do is we have to take them to the hospital. We have to maybe give them a painkiller. We have to give them fluids. The same thing applies to the birds also. And another thing to note is these baby birds are very used to opening their mouth. I mean, opening their mouth is signaling, acknowledging the parents. So they may do the same thing with us. That doesn't mean that they're hungry. An open mouth with a baby bird with an open mouth doesn't necessarily mean that it is hungry. It may be just acknowledging the parent. So should not be fed. Again, if you do not have any wildlife rescue center, access to any wildlife rescue center, then maybe you can still call one of the wildlife rescue centers in other parts of the country and take their advice on what can be done at home. But without checking all that, do not try to feed the animals.
Yeah, thanks, Jayanthi. Okay, we'll take 3 more questions and then we'll close the session because we're already quite out of time. So we have Abhav, Anamika, and Siddharth. So Abhav, would you like to go next?
Ma'am, what happens to the birds during Diwali?
Oh, a very good question. Subiksha, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, absolutely. So during Diwali, we get a lot of calls where birds are usually displaced. They get scared by the loud noises, the crackers, and you'll find them, sometimes inside your buildings, and kind of seeking shelter in those places. In those situations, again, reach out to a rescue center. But a lot of times, these nocturnal animals are really badly affected. The owls, sometimes because of the loud noises, babies get scared, they fall out of their nest, bats get displaced. So these are some of the things that we commonly notice during the Diwali period. So again, in these situations, if you were to encounter something like this, please reach out to the rescue center for advice. And I think there are better ways that we can enjoy Diwali instead of bursting crackers. I think that would be our advice to you guys, so that we can make sure it's a nice time for the animals as well.
It's a very scary time for us, guys. I mean, during Diwali, we close we double tape. I mean, we put some insulating material to make sure that the animals don't get distressed. Because see, suddenly a loud noise, which you cannot understand, is scary thing for everything, right? And some of these birds have very keen sense of hearing, particularly the owls. So you can imagine what would that, the bomb or whatever you call these crackers that you have, goes off, and what would be the bird feeling? It doesn't know why is it happening. It doesn't know that it is Diwali that day. It doesn't know that this is a common thing. So it is huge. Wildlife, the stress with wildlife is super high, and that stress can cause them to have a heart attack also. So many such things happen. So do not burst loud crackers. Like Subiksha was saying, I mean, there are some green crackers, or maybe that doesn't have loud sound. Enjoy your night. At least keep it to a specific period. Other things, at least maybe if we can confine it to an hour, that's okay. But if the crackers keep going on throughout the night and at different times, and rocket flies over here or a cracker goes off over here, it's scary for people itself. So you can imagine what it would be for wildlife who don't even understand and don't know where to go. Sometimes they go helter-skelter here and there and end up in a wrong place. During Diwali, that is one of the things we get also. Unusual places these birds are found, because they're just trying to run away from this, find a safe space, and there is no safe space that night.
Yeah, it's a tough time for birds and animals. Okay. Siddharth, why don't you go next?
So my question is, why cats hunt only the crows and the other birds? Why don't they hunt small birds? And
No.
a lot of birds in front of my house being dead and spread out. A
No,
very
no,
common.
cats don't just hunt crows. They hunt everything. Cats hunt bats also in a place in an urban spaces, right? These we have all these avenue trees like Singapore cherry and all that. They are at low height. These are not high canopy trees, and bats do come to pick fruits from them, or even bulbuls. Cats hunt everything. They do not discriminate. Bats, a baby bird, and the biggest threat that baby birds have is from feral cats. Okay. Because cats are more agile, they can climb the trees, they can find the nest, they can pursue. Have you ever seen a cat pursue? It is sits sight on a prey, it will go for it, and it's stealth, and it's such a beautiful animal otherwise. But for the birds, yeah, cats do hunt all types of birds and small mammals, squirrels also they go for. So the best thing is, if you can find space in your home, bring a cat home, keep it indoors, don't keep them outdoors.
Ma'am, it is not ours, ma'am. It's like neighborhoods, ma'am. But
I know. Then that is why we all have to stand together to be able to raise that awareness. Tell your neighbor. Maybe at least they can bell the cat, at least put a bell on the cat if it is neighbor. So even if it is going outdoors, at least some of the birds can hear that as the cat moves, and we'll be able to move away, because a silent and stealth cat is more dangerous than a somewhat noisy cat with a bell.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll take one last question. Anamika.
Miss, if a hatchling falls out of its nest, why don't their parents come back to take them?
Right. Very good point you have raised, Hanamika. Yeah, so for these altricial birds that we are talking about, it is also important to understand the stage at which they are. Are they a hatchling? Are they a pre-nestling? Nestling, or a pre-fledgling, or a fledgling? A hatchling bird, quite naked, just got out of the egg. If it is supposed to stay in the nest, these birds build the nest, right? But if it falls out of the nest for whatever reason, the nest is not, is just disintegrated, is not strong, or something disturbed the nest, the parent birds will not come and pick the bird. I mean, no birds come and pick the bird and put it back into the nest. That's not how it works. Then it is like, they try to focus on the other birds, birds that are already there in the nest. So in cases like that, yes, intervention is necessary. This may happen because of two reasons. One, it's an accident, so the bird fell out of it. Second, the bird is not healthy, so the siblings, I mean, may also kick the bird. All these things happen in the natural world out there. Can also kick in the weaker one. So we don't know which is which, or maybe it has some disease. Could be several reasons. So that is why it is important again to call someone who knows how to react in this case, and take their advice and follow it. If they think that it is just some mishap, they will ask you to put it back into the nest. And this happens also, and then the bird raises up to be fine. But if it has some issue, some disease or something like that, they may bring it to the rescue center and see what can be done for that poor little thing.
Okay, thanks for your question, Anamika, and everyone else. Okay, we're not taking any more questions, but if you have questions, you can send it on email and we can reply to you. Okay, we'll close the session now. Thank you so much, Jayanthi and Subiksha. You were so patient with answering all the questions, and the content was great. I think a lot of questions that people had in the registration form, like I said, you answered them. So thank you for taking out time to teach us when to stand back and when we need to step in to help wildlife. It was really great to know the kind of work that you are doing. It is surely very challenging, but also very inspiring. And I hope some of our young participants today are inspired to become wildlife rehabilitators or in similar fields. So a
Yeah.
big thank you to you and the whole team in ARRC for helping birds and animals and inspiring us also to look out for them.
Thank you also, Shruti, and everyone at Early Bird for giving us an opportunity to present our point of view. And yeah, thanks for the crowd. I mean, we really have a great crowd today with all punch-packed questions, and hope to see you guys some other time at some other place. Thank
Yes,
you again.
thank you. Okay, thank you to all our audience also for staying with us. I will send you an email with contact details of wildlife rescue organizations in the country. I will also include a feedback form. Please do drop in a quick feedback on what you liked and what other sessions you would like us to do. That's all from our end. Thank you once again. I look forward to seeing you all in the next session. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.